Baseball is having one of its greatest moments in a generation. Over 71 million fans walked through the turnstiles last season, the highest attendance in nearly a decade. Viewership is up. International interest in the sport has never been higher. The pitch clock transformed the pace of the game and brought casual fans back in a way nobody expected. And sitting at the center of all of it is the most remarkable player this sport has ever seen. Shohei Ohtani, a man who hit 50 home runs, stole 50 bases, and can take the mound and throw triple digits. In 150 years of baseball, we have never seen anything like him. He is a once-in-a-civilization talent. Fans are falling in love with this game again. The product on the field has never been better. By almost every measurable standard, baseball is thriving right now. And right now, in the middle of all of that momentum, the Commissioner of Baseball is publicly talking about a lockout. Rob Manfred has already said on the record that an off-season lockout is, quote, a positive because of the leverage it creates in negotiations. Not behind closed doors, not off the record publicly, on purpose. Players are ready to sit down and negotiate. We want a deal. We want this game to keep growing. But before formal talks have even started, the league is already telegraphing that a work stoppage is the plan. Disrupting the greatest moment baseball has had in decades for leverage, that should concern every single fan watching this right now. And then, as if owners needed any more good fortune, this happened. Tony Clark, the executive director of the Players Association, resigned just weeks ago at the start of spring training. Tony was a pioneer, the first former player to ever lead this union, and players genuinely respected his passion and his fight for us. But the timing of his departure, 10 months before the most important negotiation in 30 years, is the luckiest break owners have had in a long time. Owners didn't plan this, they didn't cause it, but you better believe they noticed it. Here's what I need you to understand, though. It isn't going to work out the way they're hoping. This union has never been more unified. We have never been more clear on what we are fighting for. Players are ready to negotiate. Owners are the ones publicly promising a lockout. Remember that. So let's talk about what is actually happening here and why it matters to you as a fan. Because I think most fans hear labor dispute and immediately think, just put in a salary cap and a floor. Problem solved. I get it. Every other major sport has one. It sounds simple on the surface. But a salary cap and floor doesn't fix your team. A competing owner does. If you watched my previous video on why a cap doesn't actually create competitive balance, you already know this. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how we got here and why it matters for your team. Here's something fans don't fully appreciate about CBA negotiations. Nothing at that table is simple. Every single word in that document has consequences that don't show up until years later. Owners come to that table with entire teams of lawyers and economists who have been preparing for this moment for years. And so do players. The MLBPA has serious legal and economic firepower on their side too. But when two sides that sophisticated sit across from each other, nothing gets resolved easily. What looks like a win in the moment can quietly become a loss 3 or 4 years down the road. That's not an excuse, that's just the reality of how hard these negotiations actually are. To understand where we are right now, you have to recognize something first. Owners have been running the same playbook for 50 years, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Before 1976, players had no free agency, no negotiating rights, and no say in where they played. Your team owned your rights, period. That was the end of the conversation. Marvin Miller built the Players Association from nothing into the most powerful union in professional sports history. Free agency, salary arbitration, the right to negotiate your own contract. Players fought for every single one of those rights. None of it was given. All of it was earned at the bargaining table. And from the moment players won those rights, owners started looking for ways to take them back. In 1994, owners pushed hard for a salary cap. Players said no and went on strike. The World Series was canceled. It was the darkest moment in baseball labor history, but players held the line. The courts sided with the players. The cap was blocked. Players won. But it cost them a World Series and nearly cost baseball an entire generation of fans. Fast forward 30 years, and owners are running the exact same play again. Same argument, same pressure tactics, same threat of a work stoppage. Different year. Now let's look at the recent history, honestly, because this is where the playbook gets more subtle. Tony Clark became executive director in 2013 and negotiated 2 CBAs, 2016 and 2022. And players, fans, and owners can all look at those negotiations objectively and see what happened. The 2016 CBA was Clark's first negotiation as executive director. The luxury tax threshold went up slightly, but the penalties for crossing it got dramatically harsher. What that did over time was turn the luxury tax, which was never supposed to be a salary cap, into something that functioned exactly like one. Teams started treating that threshold as a hard ceiling, not because they had to, but because repeatedly crossing it just wasn't worth the penalty. Owners got their soft cap without ever having to call it a cap. That's the playbook working exactly as designed. Players gave away spending restraint at the top without getting any real guarantee that owners would actually spend their central revenue checks at the bottom. And even though the CBA technically requires it, owners have never faced meaningful consequences for ignoring it. And the middle class of free agency started collapsing almost immediately after that deal was signed. By the time the 2021 lockout came around, average player salaries had declined for 4 straight years. 4 years of record MLB revenue, 4 years of declining player salaries. Let that sink in. The 2022 CBA was a real step forward. Players secured one of the largest minimum salary increases in the history of the sport, a number that continued climbing each year of the deal. And for the first time ever, a pre-arbitration bonus pool was created, putting real money into the hands of young players producing at an elite level, but earning the minimum. That bonus pool was a genuine historic win, something players had been pushing for a long time. But across the biggest economic levers, players came in asking for roughly twice what they ultimately settled for. Negotiations are two-sided and you never get everything you want, but it is honest context for where players are standing heading into December. So now, let's talk about what owners are doing right now, because this has been in motion for years. We have the greatest player who has ever lived, drawing fans to this sport from every corner of the world. We have a game that is genuinely fun to watch again. Attendance up, viewership up, energy up. And owners look at all of that and see an opportunity, not to celebrate, but to lock players out and try to force a deal. That baffles me. It genuinely does. This is not the moment to disrupt what baseball has built. They have already floated early cap proposals, and the numbers tell you everything you need to know about their intentions. A ceiling around $260 to $280 million, and a floor around $140 to $160 million. That gap between the cap and the floor is enormous, and it is not an accident. A cap at that level would strip hundreds of millions in spending power from teams like the Dodgers and Mets, the teams actually investing in winning. A floor that low would force cheap owners to spend more, but spending more doesn't automatically mean competing. Just ask Cleveland Browns fans. The NFL has had a salary cap for decades. The Browns have had the same cap as every other team. And yet, organizational dysfunction, poor decisions, and a lack of real commitment to winning has kept that franchise from a championship for over 50 years. A cap doesn't fix incompetence. It doesn't fix an owner who doesn't genuinely care about winning. Everyone says they want to win, but not every organization is truly committed to doing whatever it takes. Now, spending money alone doesn't guarantee winning. Just ask Browns fans. But not spending at all guarantees losing. And that's exactly what too many MLB owners are choosing to do. And Manfred is already on record saying, a lockout creates leverage. He said it publicly. That is not spin. That is a direct quote. Rob Manfred works for the owners. That is literally his job. He was hired by them and answers to them. So it shouldn't surprise anyone that his priority is protecting the owners' financial interests over the momentum of the game. A salary cap isn't about competitive balance, it's about transferring money from players to owners. That's it. That is what this fight is actually about. Here's the truth that owners don't want fans to hear. There is currently nothing stopping owners from spending more money. Nothing. There is no rule, no law, no regulation preventing any owner in baseball from spending below $200 million on payroll by choice. They choose not to. They pocket the revenue-sharing money, they watch the franchise value climb, and they put a losing product on the field year after year. A salary cap doesn't fix that owner, it just punishes the owners who are actually trying to win. What fans should really be demanding isn't just a floor, it's accountability. Demand that your owner spends money. Demand that they do everything in their power to win games, and demand that the next CBA includes language that makes cheap owners actually answer for pocketing revenue-sharing money without investing it back into competing. That's the conversation we should be having, not a cap. Here's where I'll leave you. Players have fought for everything we have: free agency, arbitration, the minimum salary. None of it was given. Every generation of players before us sacrificed something so the next generation could have more. That's what December is about. Not greed, not ego, legacy. This union is unified. We know exactly what's at stake, and we're ready. The question for fans is this: do you want owners held accountable for what they put on the field? Or do you want to hand them a salary cap that lets bad owners keep not competing? Just now, with a ceiling punishing the teams that are actually trying to win. Because that's the real choice here, and it affects your team, your city, and the game we all love. I'm the anonymous ML Burr. If this video opened your eyes, share it with a fan who still thinks a salary cap is the answer. See you next time.